Have you ever been in a meeting where everyone was just talking and making their points, and somehow the real issue was not being discussed because it was either too sensitive or explosive, or it was just difficult or too uncomfortable and no one wanted to go there? There's an English expression for this. It's called the elephant in the room. The term is used to describe an obvious issue or a subject that is known by everybody, but which we go around hoping that somehow it goes away. This is quite common, and you find it in organizations, group meetings, conferences, and even in dealing with governments. We become preoccupied with all manner of plans, activities that are supposed to solve some problem, but somehow we lack the courage or the will to call out the real issue for an honest and open discussion. When it comes to the topic of Africa's development, there are actually many elephants in the room. Actually, even the word development is something that we need to put on the table, and we need to get real about it. What exactly do we mean when we say we are pursuing development? We talk about developing nations, underdeveloped countries, we design development projects, and we have development conferences, development budgets. What exactly are we developing? And what we will look like when we are finally developed. Some years ago, I was working in the Netherlands as the Africa Director for a development finance organization, and I was invited to speak at a symposium at one of the universities there. The talk was about the impact of microfinance on development. I went to the meeting expecting a moderate group of people in a room somewhere. And you can imagine my shock as I was led into a large auditorium full of students, professors, invited guests. I didn't even have a prepared presentation. I was just coming to share my thoughts on a subject that I was quite familiar with. A number of speakers were lined up to present before me, and looking at the program, I could see that I was to be the main speaker. Talk about a communication breakdown. So most of the speakers were extolling the virtues of microfinance, and they're talking about the development tools that they were using, and they were sharing data and their experiences from their organizations. I actually didn't agree with a lot of what I was hearing. And so as I sat there, I was wondering whether I should just go on with the flow or if I should actually go ahead and share my thoughts as I had come to do. My time finally came to speak, and I stumbled onto the stage, nervous and conflicted. The moderator introduced me as Dr. Pete Ondeng from Kenya. I'm not a doctor, but it felt nice. Anyway, I got up to the podium, and at that point, I decided that I was going to be real. I told the stunned audience that, in my opinion, microfinance was being overglorified as a development tool. And many microfinance organizations were actually causing more damage than good in the communities where they were working. Many microfinance organizations, I said, were nothing more than rich people making money on the backs of poor people. Their obnoxiously high interest rates and lending terms were trapping people in debt and actually pushing many further into poverty. I gave one example of a lady that I had spoken to in a region in my own country, a place called Baringo. This lady, who was part of a solidarity group linked to a microfinance bank, said to me, "We were poor when they came here. Now we are poor and in debt." The room, as you can imagine, fell into an uncomfortable silence. I finished my presentation and I got an anemic applause as I made my way back to my seat. And when it was all over, the gentleman who had proposed my name as a speaker and invited me to the symposium, he escorted me out to the car, and he told me that I had actually let him down. In fact, he said I had embarrassed him. "If I had known that you were going to be this obnoxious and this opinionated," he said, "I would not have invited you." I drove to my home that evening wondering if I had done the right thing. I thought about the dilemma that we face as a continent, especially in relation to the agreements that we enter into with our so-called development partners. Very often, we know that an idea or a project that we are involved with is going to cost money, time, energy, and is not going to achieve the intended objective. Very intelligent, educated people play along and contribute to things that in many instances cause more damage than good. It's a difficult place to be in, and I must confess, it's a choice I struggle with even today. A friend of mine said something to me recently that spoke to me. She said, "Pete, if you don't have a conviction, then keep quiet. I would rather you give me a chance to disagree with you than just tell me what you think I want to hear."